after the deadly shooting of Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother and U.S. citizen, by an ICE officer during an altercation in Minneapolis, Democratic officials from across the country are speaking out. Maine Governor Janet Mills, a longtime Trump critic, writes, Donald Trump has weaponized ICE into an unaccountable, masked armed force, deployed at his will to target those he opposes. Maine cannot and will not turn a blind eye to ICE's unacceptable actions, which is why Maine law enforcement officers will be prohibited from working with ICE on immigration matters, and why I repealed a 2011 executive order directing enhanced cooperation with federal immigration authorities. And if Governor Mills sounds familiar here, that's because she's been here before. You may remember a very public clash between Mills and President Trump over federal funding as it relates to transgender rights, a confrontation that unfolded in real time before the cameras in the White House and did not end the way that Trump suggested at the time.
Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
But to be clear, it did not turn out to be a really easy one for the Trump administration. Maine sued, and shortly thereafter, the lawsuit that the Trump administration quietly agreed to unfreeze the federal funding it had threatened to withhold. That history matters now more than ever as states navigate whether to acquiesce to federal power, even as that power is being misused. Maine Governor Janet Mills joins us now. She's a Democratic candidate for the Senate seat currently being held by Republican Susan Collins. Thank you for joining us this morning, Governor Mills. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to start out with just helping our viewers understand what the presence of ICE is like in Maine right now, how it has impacted the state and all of your constituents, and what is your message to those who are worried about the presence of these ICE agents?
Well, look, we don't have a large immigrant population, but those who are here and those who are not immigrants or visa holders are those who fear they're going to be arrested or detained are also of concern to me. They fear they're going to be arrested or detained simply because of the color of their skin or their religion or their ethnicity. And that's not fair. That's not what America was founded on. And I think it's time for the Congress to stand up to this. The big bad bill authorized billions of dollars more for ICE and offered signing bonuses, recruitment bonuses for people to come off the streets and be handed a gun and a mask and a dark uniform and be sent into cities and streets in cities across this country. And they're terrorizing people. And it's extraordinarily unfair. Look, I was a district attorney for many years. I was attorney general. I'm the governor of the great state of Maine. I know what good law enforcement looks like. We have well-trained law enforcement in Maine, and they don't wear masks. They don't have to wear masks, and they're well-trained, unlike these people who we see in Chicago and Minneapolis and other states. They don't act with appropriate authority or training. We've read that these ICE agents, these new people hired off the streets, have not been well-trained, and that's just an abomination. And so I want the Congress to stand up to this president and ask questions about why they're doing what they're doing and rein things in, because it's unconstitutional what he's doing to the American people. Mm-hmm. If you don't stand up to a bully, and this is what he's doing, if you don't stand up to a bully, they never stop. He's bullying the American people. And when I had that confrontation with the president back in February last year, when he said, we are the federal law, that was a jaw-dropping moment for me, and I think for many Americans, because we know what the Constitution says. The Constitution says the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Not that he can make up laws and by tweet or executive order or press release or a Facebook post. That's not the job of the president. The job of the president is not to go into cities across America and terrorize people. That's not his job.
Governor, a lot of people cheered, quite frankly, when they saw in real time you push back against the president, who a lot of people seem to cower in fear from. I'm just wondering, from your vantage point, how do you think Minnesota Governor Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey are doing in their efforts to push back against what the president is doing in their state, their city?
Well, they're doing what they can in a very terrible situation. This is a provocative action, confrontational action, sending ICE into a city to round up, as in Casablanca, round up the usual suspects or non-suspects. They're rounding up some U.S. citizens and people with work visas. And so it's not fair, and they're doing what they can. J.B. Pritzker and Tim Walz, good friends of mine, they're doing what they can. But look, I'm calling on the Congress to stand up to this president. And that's why I'm also calling on Senator Collins to take action when it comes to Venezuela. She's the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. She has the power and the authority to call this administration to account, to hold hearings on why they're doing what they're doing, not only in Venezuela, but with ICE, with the money appropriated in the big bad bill, which also extends tax benefits to billionaires and cuts Medicaid and health care for United States, for Americans all across the country. And she needs to call him to account. It's having a backbone against this president, this bullying on this administration's part is what's necessary. She needs to hold hearings on why we went into Venezuela, what the process is, what the plan is to run another country. She needs to hold hearings, and she needs to hold up funding for the action in Venezuela and what we're going to do without a complete authorization, without accountability, and without answers. She needs to, well, go ahead.
Governor, you brought up Senator Collins. You want her job. At this point, we have a poll showing you 10 points up in the Democratic primary, 47% to Graham Plattner's 37%, so up by 10 points there. There's been a lot of controversy with Mr. Plattner, but there's also been some questions around age versus, is age a benefit or not when it comes to folks where people are sending to Washington, D.C. Sure. When you are talking to voters and when you are one, does it come up? And two, why should voters look past the age after what folks saw with President Joe Biden? I will say you are much more spry, it seems. But so the comparison is not the same, but the question still remains.
Of course, age is a factor. Age is an issue, a consideration. It was an issue for me. I thought a lot about it. Look, and that's why I'm running for one term, and I really mean one term, because I don't want to spend day 2 of my tenure in the Senate starting to dial for dollars and run for re-election. I want to go down there and bring my experience, my expertise to the Congress, to the Senate of the United States, and start working for Maine people on day 1. I can get things done. I think that's my reputation, getting stuff done. And that's what I want to do. And I don't want to spend 6 years dialing for dollars and running for re-election. And I want to make room for a younger generation to come after. We have a great bench in Maine, people running for governor, people who are in charge of the legislature who are much younger and have a lot of capability as well. So I'm running to get things done on day 1. And that's my game. I don't. I'm in good health. People see me every day around town, and people see what I can do, and I think they judge for themselves. So,
Governor,
yes.
Governor Janet Mills, somehow I get the feeling that you don't say stuff when talking to people when you say get stuff done.
It's Sunday morning. I
got that feeling, too.
Governor Janet Mills of the great state of Maine, thank you very much for coming to the weekend.